Hi there everybody, Trudy here, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading for the week beginning at Monday the 22nd of April through to the 28th of April 2019. Now, I have been having some technical problems lately. You might have noticed that from last week. Last week I had to re-record, do a do-over of my video because for some reason the sound didn't work. Same deal this week. I don't know what's happened. I'm going to get it sorted out. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. Anyway, so I have already done this recording and shuffled the cards, and I have them right here. I'm going to read them to you now, but I will not be reshuffling. So, yeah, hopefully you're okay with that. Probably won't make the video any shorter, let's be honest. I do tend to go off on tangents. So Monday we have yin. Now, if you do yoga, you'll be all over yin. It's the slower form of yoga where you hold the pose and you settle into it, and it's about stillness. And that, even if you don't do yoga, that's going to resonate with you, I hope, because that is something we all need to be doing. Taking time for stillness, making time for stillness, I should say. Let's not pretend that it just happens to us. We have to actually make it a priority. It doesn't just jump up and appear in front of us. So yin is about the feminine energy. You would have heard of the yin and the yang. It's about that polarity. The yin side of things is more about the feminine energy. Doesn't matter what gender you identify with, everybody has both masculine and feminine energy. And the feminine energy is things like nurturing, as in the mother experience, the wisdom, the intuitive. And it's that intuitive part that's really being highlighted with this idea of yin. But also nurturing yourself, I would say, is also relevant here. That's being kind to yourself, engaging in self-care on a very fundamental level in terms of your sleep, exercise, etc., and nutrition. But in terms of the intuitive ability, it's very difficult for your angels, your spirit guides, the universe to reach you with intuitive messages if you are running around like crazy, getting things done and not actually stopping and making time for self-reflection. This is super important. We had a card about this last week. You need to be stopping and you need to be making time for stillness, even if it's just 10 minutes. Ideally outside around nature, but don't worry if it's cold and you can't do that. Meditation is fantastic for this. It really turns down the volume of that noise in your brain. Anything at all like that that can help, and yes, yoga does help, but I know yoga's not for everybody, so I don't want to force it on people. What else is good? Doing a creative activity is really helpful because creativity is ultimately a feminine energy. It doesn't mean men are not also creative; they also have feminine energy. But when you step into that energy, that creative energy, you're channeling from the divine. The ideas are not yours; they're coming from elsewhere. You're putting them into play, according to your own kind of experiences, those filters of how you interpret things, but the ideas are not yours. They've been given to you, but they didn't come from you. So that's why being creative, being arty, writing, are all sort of intuitive acts, I guess, if I could put it like that. Tuesday's card is an interesting one. This is Tuesday the 23rd of April. It's Isis, past life. Now, I know the Egyptian goddess Isis is associated with primary, a lot of different things, and I'm not exactly sure that past lives are typically one of her kind of areas, but this card primarily talks about the past, specifically the way the past is affecting you now. We like to think that the past is done and dusted, but that's really not the case. It shows up in terms of the way we respond to situations, what we're afraid of, the beliefs that we have about our capacity to achieve, just to name a few. So there are two kind of different levels here, and let me start with the in the shallows level, and then we'll go down to the deep end. So with the shallows, this is about your past in this lifetime, things that may have happened in your childhood, your teenage years, or even a couple of years ago with that bad breakup that you're still carrying around the baggage from. So look at where things are repeating. That usually gives you a bit of a clue where the past is showing up in your life. You keep attracting the same sort of partner. That's one example. If you were cheated on, there's a good chance you're going to keep attracting people who either cheat on you or you are afraid will cheat on you. And that's because the energy is still there. And you might know logically that they're not going to cheat on you, but the energy is in your energy field and it's creating a block and a limiting belief there, a fear. And obviously as an energy healing is the primary thing that I would refer people to kind of resolve that. But there are lots of forms of energy healing, and I never want people to feel like they're obliged to come and see me. Past life regression work can be really helpful as well, spiritual hypnosis. And that talk about past life regression leads me to that deeper kind of level here, your past lives. Now, I've said this before, I know not everybody loves the idea of reincarnation. If you are of Indian descent, you'll be all over this, or even if you've been on a spiritual journey for a long time, you're probably well aware that we have multiple lifetimes. Some people describe themselves as old souls. The truth is we're all old souls, so you're not different if you feel like you're an old soul. We all are. We've all had incredibly long kind of spiritual histories, which our souls have, experienced, and our soul remembers it all, even though in this body we don't. So experiences from past lives, sometimes the energy or the wound is still carried through into the next life in your energy, and there's a good chance that's because this is the lifetime where you are charged with the task of resolving it. So those ideas about betrayal, loyalty, etc. Sometimes if those are things that you perhaps didn't act in the best way or you were affected by in a past life, this is the lifetime where your soul perhaps has decided to resolve that and to really heal it. And in order to remind you to do that, the universe is going to keep sending you experiences that prompt you to do it, to the point where you go, I am so sick of attracting this type of partner who's wrong for me. I need to sort it out and figure out what's going on. And maybe you're not aware that it's in your energy, but you will know that there's something going on there that you need to be resolving. So the energy healing I do does resolve across all directions of time and space, but you could go see a past life regression therapist. So with this card, if that just doesn't resonate with you, just go with what I said earlier about events in your past. How are they repeating, or how do you feel like you're still carrying around old baggage? If the reincarnation stuff is totally resonating and there's a ding, 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 ding going off in your head right now, I would suggest you look into that. And a great place to start is with Dr. Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters. Many Lives, Many Masters. It's by Brian Weiss, Weiss. It's a New York Times bestseller, so it's a brilliant book and very popular for a good reason. It explains the influence of past lives in a really good way. And Brian has lots of good videos and articles online you might find as well. But for sure, if you're getting experiences happening in your life that you feel like, I don't know why I've got this fear or this belief, looking into your past, you don't need to actually understand what happened to you. You can clear it just through energy healing. But certainly taking some steps to resolve that will be super beneficial for you. Wednesday, peaceful. This will be a little more succinct, let's hope. So what can you do to bring yourself some more peace in your day? Really notice how much time your mind is spending in the worry zone, how much time you are, I don't want to say using badly, but perhaps how much of your time you're devoting to things that take you away from peace. There are certain activities we have to do which are just not going to bring us peace. Driving through traffic if you happen to live in a busy area. Probably not a lot you can do to avoid that, realistically. But how can you choose to be at peace with the situation? Are you trying to fight something that you can't actually do anything about? The serenity prayer is a really good one for this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the wisdom to change the things I can't, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I've really made a bad job of interpreting that, but I'm sure many of you know it. It's very old, and you can sub out the word God with the universe, whatever works for you. And yeah, you can find it online if you actually want to know the correct wording of that. It's very, very well known. But yeah, look at ways you can bring through some peace into your day. So maybe you choose to, instead of working through your lunch break, you decide to take a walk through the park and not listen to a podcast, just actually listening to your surroundings and being at peace with your environment. Maybe you choose to spend some time playing with your kids and enjoying the fact that they are so present in the moment, and that helps you forget all the things that you're worried about. Those are just ideas. It's up to you guys to figure out what works for you. Thursday, take time for yourself. If you live in Australia or New Zealand, you will hopefully be on holiday today because it is a public holiday in this part of the world. So excellent time to take some time for yourself. Now, I've mentioned about how self-care can be associated with things like pampering, the bubble baths and the manicures, the massage. And some of those things are just not within reach for people who are time poor or actually financially poor. So I would always remind you of that. You don't have to luxuriate or, really pamper yourself. Self-care can also be things like eating well. I talked about this with the yin card, didn't I? Making sure you're eating enough vegetables, drinking enough water, going to bed early instead of staying up late watching crap TV that you'll never even remember the next day because it was so lackluster. No judgment. Reading a book that you enjoy. When was the last time you picked up an actual book? There are so many things. It's really up to you. Something that's just for you, ideally on your own. Ideally, if it's quiet, that would be really good. But just because of that message about yin is coming through so strongly and about stillness, really make it a priority. It isn't selfish. It is essential. Otherwise, you've got nothing left to give anyone else. And Dr. Libby, who is a holistic nutritionist, wrote an excellent blog last week, and I might see if I can find it. Using her car as an analogy, she used to only fill up the car with petrol when the warning light came on, but now she actually just fills it up whenever it's convenient for her. She's going past the servo, or she makes time to do it for that day, and that's because waiting until the situation is critical is really stressful, and it often means that it's not too late, but it is a little bit harder to replenish at that point. Yourself, I mean, not the car. Hopefully the car is always relatively easy to refill. But yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Shield yourself for Friday. I talk about shielding periodically because it is super important if you are an empath to protect your energy field. If you are an empath, that means you care deeply about other people and you often pick up their stuff, their energy, their moods. Now, you want to make sure you don't do that because it's just going to weigh you down. And that doesn't mean you don't care about the person. Empathy means you still care about the person, but you don't make their problems your problem. If you go see a counsellor or a psychologist, you don't want them to start crying when you're telling them about all the things you're going through. You want them to care about you, but still be impartial enough to actually give you helpful tips. And it's the same with you. You don't obviously have to be giving tips to people who are negative or whatever they're going through or, struggling, but you do want to be able to sympathise with how they feel, empathise with how they feel, I should say. That's the difference between empathy and sympathy. It's an important distinction. But you don't want to make it your stuff. You don't want to come home so depleted because everybody around you is feeling really struggling and now you feel like there's no point. The world is a hopeless, dark place, which I guess we all do feel from time to time, but you don't want to be feeling those feelings as a result of other people's struggles. Don't make other people's stuff your stuff. It isn't an act of kindness at all. Sometimes we think it is. It's not. It doesn't help them, and it certainly doesn't help you. There's no way you can help people if you feel like you're just weighed down by people's stuff. So shield yourself is what you want to be doing, and there are some crystals I talked about a couple of weeks ago that can help. Some lovely followers on my Instagram weighed in with a couple of suggestions like black tourmaline, which I actually do have right here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. This is quite a smooth one with some rough edges, which I quite like. I use this in Reiki sessions. I put it under the pillow of the client to stop me from taking on board their energies. Clear quartz, amethyst are good kind of clearing ones. I'm not sure about their capacity for shielding, but there may be some properties there. Certainly, a shielding exercise is something I recommend to everybody. I do it myself. I could not get through the work I do without it. And it's very simple. I will post an article about that. It just involves asking Archangel Michael to use the sort of light to create a bubble, a shield of white light around you. And you can, dress that up however you want. But essentially you're asking Michael, who is the protector angel, available to everybody at any point. All you need to do is ask. You're asking Michael to put a shield around you so that only love can come in and out. And that doesn't mean you're not still going to feel sad or anxious or whatever you're feeling, but it just means that that's not going to come through from someone else around you because ain't nobody got time for that. Saturday, I'm just going to pull the blind down. So I've just chosen the end of the day and the sun is sinking. Nurture. So last Friday, we had the Mother card. So this is essentially the same card or the same message, just in a different card deck. So whenever we see that repeated, we know it's a strong theme for right now. And very appropriate since the divine feminine is rising in the world. And that's not easy for some people, but it's ultimately beneficial for all of us because the divine feminine has been suppressed for so long. And we see this with the likes of Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, the way she's leading from the heart, which is not something we're used to, and that's why people are going crazy about it, when in actual fact it should be the norm rather than the exception. So nurturing, what are the ways that you are... Oh, actually, with the yin card, I did mention this, didn't I? The divine feminine. Those feminine elements of nurturing and, obviously wisdom, I think I talked about too, and intuitive abilities, but and we'll go with the nurturing one here just because it's being highlighted. So obviously that's, what the angels want to emphasize for us. And it's not just nurturing your kids or the people around you who need you at the moment. It's also about nurturing yourself. And I'm just getting a message that's a very strong idea that they want to enforce with you guys, is that you need to be mothering yourself, as weird as that sounds. Mothering your inner child, you could think of it like that. So when you are struggling or you're worrying, what would you like a mother to say to you? It's going to be all right. You're doing a great job. Just get through today, tomorrow will be better. All those sorts of things that you really want a mother or a supportive friend to say to you. Those are the things that you need to be saying to yourself instead of beating yourself up and calling yourself a failure or useless or whatever things you say. So nurturing yourself, and for those of you who are needing to nurture other people, you'll be getting prompted on this, I'm sure. Sunday, life purpose. This is a big, big message, and a lot of people... For a lot of people, it's a real source of anxiety because they really feel quite perplexed and quite burdened if they don't know their life purpose already. And let me tell you, a lot of people don't know, and that's totally okay. It might take you your whole life to figure it out. That's okay. Maybe that's just the way you are learning lessons. So I know part of my life purpose, which is sharing messages from the divine and helping distill those messages and make them accessible to everyday people. So here I am doing that. But that's not the only thing I'm here to do. There are lots of blocks from past life experiences I'm also here to work through and heal and grow through. So life purpose, if you're a parent, one of your life purposes will be to parent well. And that doesn't mean being perfect, and it doesn't mean having an Instagram perfect house. It just means guiding your children to become excellent human beings, basically. And there are lots of different forms that can take. But primarily role modeling growth is within your own life and yourself is one of the best ways to do that. So if you don't know your life purpose, please don't worry about it. But if you're on a path at the moment towards uncovering that, this card is really trying to urge you on. You're making progress, so keep going with it. And remember that even if you haven't figured it out yet, the journey towards discovering that is teaching you something valuable. So in a way, that could be kind of part of your purpose as well, if that makes sense. The journey, the learning. We don't fail if we haven't figured things out. We just haven't quite got there yet, and that's the learning process. So you either win or you learn. There's no losing in this sort of journey of life. If you've been wondering if something is your life purpose, this card can come up to say yes, it is. So that's a nice affirmation, I guess, or confirmation, I should say, for some of you. And the other thing, this card, the word purpose is an important one because there is research that shows if you have a sense of purpose, you will live a longer life and your mental health will be more resilient and more robust. And that's because it really can sustain you when your life has meaning and a sense of purpose to it. And we know from various people around the world, in particular in Japan, the island of Okinawa, they have the most people over 100 who have the best health. And that's because they don't have retirement there. They have a word called ikigai, which means a sense of purpose, basically. So when you retire, as we would call it, from your job, you go on to serve in some way. You serve the community, you serve your grandchildren. You always have a sense of purpose. You're fulfilling some sort of need. And so this card might be asking you to find some purpose in your life. If you are not feeling fulfilled right now, you're not feeling challenged, you're feeling a bit lost, off kilter, whatever it is, having a sense of purpose in some way will help you. What gives your life meaning? Perhaps you get a lot of purpose from spending time with animals, and maybe you could expand that to volunteer for an animal shelter or something like that. That's just an idea. It's really up to you guys to figure this stuff out. I just want to really make sure no one is stressing out about this, because that doesn't help. So this yin or divine feminine energy is coming through really strongly this week, in particular the idea about nurturing ourselves, which is a bit of a hangover from last week, good kind of hangover. And I think that take time for yourself message feeds into that, of course. What else have we got here? Well, I think that's kind of it. I mean, I suppose the ideas of life lessons and what we're here to kind of achieve with this life purpose and you know, learning from the past are all kind of related. Thank you very much for watching this week. Hopefully next week I will be able to shuffle right before your very eyes and you can see the cards jump out, and the sound quality will actually work, which would be super helpful for me, because obviously it's very time consuming having to go back and re-record. Anyway, that's just my little issue to deal with. Thank you very much for your time, for your lovely feedback, and for your for sharing love. The love that you send out, I receive and I send back to you. And that's how love expands and flows. So I will put these cards on my social media, my Instagram @OneGroundedAngel, and my Facebook page, One Grounded Angel. Hopefully I will post on Friday on my Facebook page that article about shielding as well. Somebody please let me know if I've forgotten. There's a good chance I will forget. And of course you can always reach me at www.onegroundedangel.com, and there's information about the sort of healing work I do there as well on the healing tab. If you want to make an appointment or get more information, you can hit me up, HMU as the young people say, on the bookings tab there. Just fill that out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back next week.